Imagine standing in front of a firing squad.
Oh, wow. Okay, starting intense today.
Right. I mean, just picture it. Your heart rate has spiked to like 150 beats per minute. Your palms are actively sweating.
Yeah, that full fight or flight response.
Exactly. Your peripheral vision narrows and like the higher order processing centers of your brain, the parts responsible for logic and wit and charm, they have effectively just shut down completely.
Right, because physiologically speaking, your body is preparing for imminent destruction.
Yes. But here's the thing. You're not in front of a firing squad.
No.
No. You're standing in some poorly lit hotel conference room, you're holding a lukewarm cup of coffee on a tiny paper napkin, and someone you have just met has extended their hand and dropped 5 simple words on you.
Let me guess. Tell me about yourself.
Tell me about yourself. Boom. Mine goes completely blank. You're like a deer caught in the headlights.
It is honestly the ultimate paradox of human interaction, isn't it?
It really is.
I mean, the lowest stakes environment imaginable. A networking mixer or a casual party, and it triggers the exact same neurobiological panic as a life or death survival scenario.
Which is exactly the phenomenon we're diving into today. Because for this deep dive, we are looking at a methodology that acts as like a neurological circuit breaker for that exact panic.
And the source material we're using to explore this is actually quite surprising.
Yeah, it's fascinating. On its surface, it is almost deceptively rudimentary. We've got our hands on a transcript from an English language learning program.
Right, specifically a channel aimed at absolute beginners.
Exactly. So this is material specifically engineered for people who are just learning how to put basic nouns and verbs together to introduce themselves.
Yeah.
The stated mission of this framework is to strip away all complex grammar, no difficult words, no long sentences.
Which is precisely why it's so incredibly valuable for us to analyze.
Yeah, I mean, I know you, the listener, are probably thinking, well, I'm a highly informed, articulate person. Why are we doing a deep dive into a beginner's language guide?
Right, it seems counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But the reason is that by stripping communication down to its absolute most primitive components, this text accidentally exposes the underlying mechanics of how human connection actually works.
It really does. It's not just a language lesson at all.
No, I'd argue it's basically a masterclass in evolutionary psychology and managing social anxiety, because it reveals what our brains actually need to feel safe around a stranger.
So, yeah, we're not talking about how to conjugate verbs today. We are talking about how to hack the autonomic nervous system.
I love that framing.
Thanks. Because when I first reviewed this source material, I realized it isn't just teaching vocabulary. It's providing an algorithm for psychological safety.
It is.
It throws a very specific conversational API, a strict data format that allows 2 completely foreign systems to communicate instantly without crashing, and it throws it right at that deer in the headlights moment.
A conversational API is such a brilliant way to describe it because, well, think about it. When 2 software systems interact, they don't just send endless chaotic streams of complex code at each other and just sort of hope the other side figures it out.
Right, that would cause a total system failure.
Exactly. They send highly structured, predictable packets of data. And human brains require the exact same predictability when establishing a new connection, especially under stress.
And this framework establishes that exact predictability by demanding strict adherence to a 3-part architecture.
Right, it only has 3 parts.
3 parts. The golden rule here is that the best introduction consists of 3, and only 3 components: name, detail, question.
That's the entire algorithm.
That's it. You state your name, you provide one short piece of context about yourself, and you immediately throw a simple question back to the other person.
The elegance is entirely in its restriction, I think.
Yeah, and the methodology actually forces the user into this loop of rote memorization. It drills this trinity into the learner. It says, say it once with me: name, detail, question.
It's relentless about it.
It is. So let's crack open the hood on this. Why is a rigid 3-part structure the ultimate antidote to the social firing squad? Because, our natural instinct when we panic is either to completely freeze up and stare blankly, or to just start word vomiting our entire resume at the person.
Yeah, the oversharing panic. Well, it really comes down to cognitive load theory.
Okay, break that down for us.
So it's specifically about how our working memory completely degrades under stress. You have your prefrontal cortex, right? That's
All right.
the part of your brain responsible for complex thought, narrative construction, emotional regulation, all that high-level stuff. But when a stranger approaches you and demands you summarize your identity, your amygdala, which is the brain's threat detection center, it hijacks the whole system.
So the alarms are blaring.
Exactly. Suddenly, your brain's processing power is diverted. You're subconsciously calculating threat levels. You're thinking, do I look foolish? What's my social standing here? Did I spill coffee on my shirt?
Oh, man. Yeah, you're basically running a massive background diagnostic on your own social survival.
Precisely. Your working memory is maxed out just trying to survive the interaction. So if you also have to invent a compelling, unique narrative about your life trajectory on the spot, the system crashes.
You just don't have the RAM for it.
Exactly. You don't have the RAM, so a rigid three-part structure acts as an external hard drive for your brain.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. You don't have to invent a response.
Right.
You merely have to retrieve 3 prepackaged pieces of data and drop them into the slots.
It's like a pilot going through a pre-flight checklist.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, like they don't try to creatively invent a way to start the engines every time, right?
Right.
They follow the sequence so they don't crash the plane. So let's look at the first item on that checklist, the name. The framework doesn't just say, tell them who you are. It provides strict behavioral boundaries around it.
It's very specific.
Extremely. It commands the speaker to start clearly, to avoid rushing, to never whisper, and to maintain a calm baseline. It says, do not rush, do not whisper. Just say your name in a calm voice.
And those instructions are doing a lot of heavy lifting. They aren't just about vocal clarity.
What are they about then?
They are about establishing physical and psychological territory.
Okay, I'm going to push back on this, though.
All right, go for it.
Because I totally understand the concept of clarity, but there's a risk here, right? If I'm at, say, a loud, fast-paced corporate event,
Sure.
and I walk up to someone and deliver my name at a glacial, calculated pace, like, hello, I am Daniel, I'm going to sound like an arrogant supervillain.
Well, yeah.
Doesn't this instruction to speak slowly and calmly risk making people sound, I don't know, self-important?
Yeah.
Or completely disconnected from the social rhythm of the room?
That's a really crucial distinction to make. But we aren't talking about a theatrical, dramatic pause here.
Okay.
We're talking about the absence of panic. When people are nervous, the default physiological response is to compress themselves.
Oh, like physically shrink down.
Yes. They physically slouch, but they also vocally compress their speech. Rushing and whispering are basically subconscious manifestations of an apology.
Wow. Wait, an apology?
Yeah, when you rush through your name, you are signaling to the other person, I know my identity isn't valuable enough to consume your time, so I'm going to minimize my footprint in this interaction.
Oh, man. You're trying to sneak into the conversation without tripping the alarm.
Which ironically makes you seem incredibly untrustworthy and low status.
That is so true. It's like, why is this person hiding?
Exactly. So the framework counters this by suggesting simple declarative statements, hi, I'm Daniel, or hello, I'm Sarah, or hey, I'm Ahmed.
Just normal phrases.
Right. And delivering that at a normal, unhurried pace isn't arrogant. It's grounded. It claims your right to occupy space in that room. And more importantly, it forces your own nervous system to recognize that you are not under threat.
Which I assume signals to the listener's nervous system that you are not a threat to them either.
Exactly. It's a mutual de-escalation.
Okay, so delivering the name calmly drops the anchor. It stops the physiological panic cycle. You've established presence.
Yes.
But, I mean, an anchor just keeps you from drifting, right? It doesn't give you momentum. If you just stand there calmly declaring your name, the conversation is still going to die a very painful death.
It absolutely will.
You have to give the other person something to latch onto, which brings us to the second phase of the algorithm, the detail.
And this is where the framework introduces extreme linguistic minimalism.
Oh, it is militant about it.
Yeah.
The categories allowed for this detail are fiercely restricted. It's basically what you do, where you are from, why you are there, or what you study.
And the examples they give are almost comically brief.
They really are. Things like, I'm a student, or I'm from Kenya, I work in sales, I'm a teacher, I'm here to learn English. And the overarching directive, in bold letters basically, is simply keep it short.
Because the methodology explicitly praises brevity. It points out that short sentences have three distinct advantages for beginners.
Right.
First, they are mechanically easier to say. Second, they are cognitively easier to remember. And third, they just sound more natural.
I want to focus on that easier to remember aspect for a second, because we've been talking a lot about the speaker's cognitive load, but this is really about managing the listener's cognitive load, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Think about the last time you were at a networking mixer. If I walk up to you and say, hi, I'm Daniel, I grew up in Chicago, but then I moved to London for my master's in behavioral economics, and now I'm working at a boutique consultancy trying to pivot into tech.
My brain has already completely thrown away the first half of that sentence.
Exactly.
I've thrown away everything except the anxiety of trying to figure out how to respond to that massive wall of information.
It's like serving an appetizer. If you invite someone to your house for a dinner party, you don't shove an entire roasted turkey into their mouth the second they step over the threshold.
God, I hope not.
Right. You hand them a single almond. You offer a tiny, easily digestible flavor of who you are.
It's about providing manageable data packets. I work in sales. That is a discrete, easily categorized piece of information.
Right.
The listener's brain can immediately file it away. But the third point the framework makes, that simple sentences sound more natural, that is where the real psychological insight lies. Because we have this pervasive societal belief that complexity equals intelligence.
Yes. Okay, this is exactly where I have a massive problem with this framework in a real-world setting.
Let's hear it.
Because in today's hyper-competitive networking culture, everyone is like a synergy consultant or a growth hacker or whatever.
Totally.
If I just walk into a room of high achievers and say, hi, I'm Daniel, I'm a student, or I work in sales, it feels like professional suicide. Doesn't a brutally short, simple sentence make you sound incredibly robotic or just uninteresting?
I get why you'd think that.
Like, doesn't it lack the hook that makes people actually want to talk to you?
That exact fear is the trap. That is the exact fear that causes the initial paralysis we were talking about earlier.
Really?
Yes. We feel this crushing expectation to be instantly fascinating, right? To justify our existence with a uniquely compelling value proposition in the first 10 seconds.
Right, the elevator pitch.
But the framework fundamentally rejects that premise. It argues that simple English is fine and natural, and that attempting to be uniquely fascinating in your opening sentence actually creates immense conversational friction.
Wait, how does it create friction? Shouldn't a fascinating detail spark conversation?
Because an introduction is not a TED Talk.
Okay, fair.
The goal of an introduction is not to win a Pulitzer Prize for your biography. The goal is just to initiate a comfortable, low-stakes connection. When you drop a highly complex, intricately crafted elevator pitch on someone, you aren't inviting them in. You're performing at them.
Oh, wow. You're performing at them. That's a great way to put it.
Complexity sounds rehearsed. It sounds frantic. Simplicity sounds grounded. The interesting nuances of your life are meant to be discovered organically later in the conversation, not blasted through a megaphone right at the start.
That reframes the entire interaction for me. You're literally just trying to open the door. You don't need to give him a guided tour of the entire house yet.
Exactly. Just open the door.
But, okay, if we follow this logic,
yeah.
You calmly state your name, you provide your single boring almond of a detail, and then you stop.
Right.
We've hit another wall. The door is open, but you're both standing there staring at each other.
Which is the exact failure point the methodology warns against. It explicitly states that stopping after the detail will cause the conversation to end too quickly.
You have to pivot. You have to pass the baton. Which brings us to the conversational engine. Step 3, asking the question.
Right.
The framework lists these examples. It says you can ask, what about you? How about you? And you, where are you from? What do you do? Or even just, nice to meet you. And again, we are looking at extreme, almost aggressive simplicity here.
But it's vital. It's the mechanism of reciprocity.
Okay, unpack that.
In evolutionary psychology, early human cooperation was built on reciprocal altruism, the whole tit-for-tat social contract.
Right, I scratch your back, you scratch mine.
Exactly. By ending your introduction with a question, you are smoothly shifting the spotlight and the associated pressure off yourself. You've done the heavy lifting of initiating, and now you are generously yielding the floor to them.
It's like a psychological safety net for the listener, too. If I say, I work in sales, and you, I'm implicitly giving you permission to match my level of simplicity.
Yes.
I'm signaling the rules of engagement. I'm not asking for your trauma history or your 5-year strategic vision. I'm just asking for your almond.
That's a brilliant way to see it. The most charismatic individuals in any room are rarely the ones who tell the most elaborate stories.
Really? You don't think so?
No, because charisma is largely the ability to regulate the nervous systems of the people around you.
Oh, wow.
By utilizing this three-part formula, you create a predictable, low-pressure environment. You are broadcasting a signal that basically says, I speak clearly, I share concise boundaries, and I am interested in you. That creates an incredibly magnetic sense of safety.
Okay, so we have this universal algorithm, name, detail, question, identity, context, invitation.
Right.
The theory is airtight. But a framework is only as good as its adaptability, right? Can it survive actual contact with reality? The source material actually stress tests this across radically different environments.
Yeah, it functions as a contextual chameleon.
It really does.
Yeah.
It tests it in schools, offices, parties, training classes, high-stakes interviews. Let's look at the situational drills they provide. Like in an academic setting, the example is, hello, I'm Peter. I study business. How about you? Or, hey, I'm Linda. I'm in university. And you?
Very natural.
Then in a corporate environment, hi, I'm James. I work in customer service. What about you? Or, hello, I'm Faith. I'm a nurse. How about you?
Right.
And then in a purely social setting, like a party, hi, I'm Mary. I'm visiting from Lagos. Where are you from? Or, hey, I'm Rita. I'm from Nairobi. How about you?
It's remarkably consistent.
That's what I marvel at. The variables change, but the equation never breaks. Whether Rita is at a party in Nairobi or Joseph is sitting in a class to learn English, the underlying structure refuses to buckle. It adapts perfectly to any context.
Because that rhythm, identity, context, invitation is the fundamental baseline of human exchange. It transcends all our artificial social hierarchies.
What do you mean by artificial hierarchies?
Well, we often think that a corporate interview requires a fundamentally different communication style than a casual backyard party, right?
Yeah, of course. You wear a suit to one and a t-shirt to the other.
Right, but beneath the corporate jargon and the suits, it's still just two primates trying to figure out if they can trust each other.
Huh. Just two primates in suits.
Exactly. The API works everywhere because human neurobiology is the same everywhere.
Two primates trying to figure out if they can trust each other. I love that so much.
Yeah.
But here's the catch, and the methodology addresses this beautifully.
Yeah.
You can memorize the API. You can have the perfect three-part script dialed in. But if you deliver it while visibly vibrating with anxiety, the API fails.
Yes, the delivery mechanism matters just as much as the words.
Which leads into what I think is the most disruptive concept in the entire source material. It's this radical redefinition of confidence.
It's arguably the most vital piece of psychological unburdening for anyone who experiences social friction.
The framework explicitly tears down our societal myths about this.
Yeah.
It states definitively what confidence is not.
Right.
It says confidence does not mean speaking fast. It does not mean utilizing big, complex vocabulary. It does not mean sounding perfect or flawless.
Think about the archetype of confidence we've been fed by Hollywood and corporate culture.
Oh, yeah. The Wolf of Wall Street kind of guy.
Exactly. We picture the slick, fast-talking closer who dominates the boardroom, never stumbles over a single syllable, and commands the room with this aggressive fluency.
We treat confidence like it's an impenetrable armor of perfection.
But the framework exposes that archetype for what it really is, a high-stress performance.
And it's exhausting to maintain.
It is. So the methodology defines true confidence through three incredibly accessible metrics instead: speaking clearly, staying calm, and not giving up when you inevitably make a mistake.
It separates confidence from perfection and basically marries it to resilience. That instruction to not give up if you make a small mistake is profound to me.
It really is.
It's acknowledging that the armor will crack. You will stumble over your words. You will forget a name. True confidence isn't the magical absence of errors. It's just the ability to absorb an error without your nervous system collapsing.
It's the distinction between brittle strength and tensile strength.
Oh, I like that.
A fast-talking, flawless presentation is brittle. The moment a slide malfunctions or an unexpected question is asked, the speaker shatters. A calm, resilient speaker just takes a breath and continues.
And the framework literally prescribes that breath. Before the speaker even opens their mouth to say their name, the physical instructions are breathe in, smile a little.
Yes.
It's like building a sturdy house, right?
Yeah.
Beginners often obsess over the fancy decorations, the big, difficult words, and the fast talking. But the text insists that true confidence is just having a solid foundation. Breathing, speaking clearly, staying calm. But this isn't just fluffy self-help advice, is it? There's actual hardware manipulation happening here.
Oh, absolutely. It's direct manipulation of the vagus nerve.
Wait, the vagus nerve.
Yeah, so when you are in that deer in the headlights state, your sympathetic nervous system is fully engaged. That's the panic mode. By taking a deliberate deep breath, you manually engage the parasympathetic nervous system.
The rest and digest mode.
Exactly. It's a biological override switch that actively slows your heart rate.
And what about the smile? Smile a little.
A subtle, genuine smile. Not a frantic, plastered grin, but just a little smile. It triggers a neurochemical feedback loop.
How so?
The physical act of smiling tells your own brain that the environment is safe, which actually lowers your cortisol levels.
So you're tricking your own brain.
Right. And simultaneously, thanks to mirror neurons, the person looking at you subconsciously simulates that smile in their own brain, which lowers their defensive barriers.
That is wild.
You are hacking both of your nervous systems before a single word is even spoken.
Breathe in, smile a little, name, detail, question. It's brilliant. But because human beings are incredibly skilled at self-sabotage,
Oh, we are.
the framework identifies the 5 fatal flaws, the common mistakes, the specific ways we accidentally override this beautiful API and crash the system.
And these 5 mistakes map perfectly onto the biological stress responses we've been tracking.
Let's break them down. Mistake 1 is speaking too long, basically telling your whole life story in the first sentence.
Right.
Mistake 2 is speaking too fast. The text advice here is actually slow down. Give your words space.
I love that phrasing.
Yeah, it's very poetic. Mistake 3 is using difficult words. Mistake 4 is forgetting the question at the end. And mistake 5 is feeling nervous and stopping completely.
If you look at this taxonomy of errors, you're looking at the 2 extreme poles of the human stress response, hyperarousal and hypoarousal.
Okay, I need to challenge this.
Sure.
Because on the surface, these mistakes completely contradict each other.
How do you mean?
Well, mistake 1 is talking too much, a total lack of inhibition. But mistake 5 is completely freezing up and stopping total inhibition.
Right.
One is a fight response, throwing words like punches. The other is a flight or freeze response. You're telling me this single 3-sentence algorithm cures 2 diametrically opposed neurobiological meltdowns.
It does, actually,
Yeah.
because the algorithm provides strict external guardrails when your internal regulation fails.
Okay, explain that.
Let's look at hyperarousal first. Your cortisol spikes, your brain panics, and you try to talk your way out of the danger by oversharing and speaking frantically. That's mistakes 1, 2, and 3.
Right, the word vomit.
The rule of one short detail acts as a hard physical break. You hit the boundary of the detail, and the algorithm forces you to pivot to the question. It stops the runaway train.
Oh, I see. It forcibly cuts off the word vomit.
Precisely. Now look at hypoarousal, the freeze response.
The deer in the headlights.
Right. Your mind goes completely blank, which is mistake 5. If you don't have a structured API, you just stand there in agonizing silence.
Which is the worst feeling in the world.
It is. But if you've internalized the algorithm, it acts as an emergency backup generator. You don't need working memory to recall your name and one basic fact. You just execute the sequence.
So even if your brain is offline, your mouth just knows what to do.
Exactly. And as the framework notes, if you stumble, you can just pause and continue because that is okay. Because you
Right.
know the structure, a pause is just a pause. It's not a conversational death sentence.
That makes total sense. The API bypasses the need for emotional regulation in the moment. But, knowing the API intellectually isn't enough.
No, it's really not.
Like, I can read a book on how to hit a fastball, but if you put me in a batting cage with a 90-mile-per-hour pitch, I'm going to flinch.
Every time.
The source material realizes that passive knowledge is basically useless under fire, which is why it pivots into a highly active training tool that demands physical participation.
The pedagogy here shifts from theoretical instruction to actually building myelin.
Myelin being the insulation around our nerve fibers that makes neural pathways fire faster.
Right. Exactly. Muscle memory.
So the framework facilitates this through escalating practice. It starts with just listen first, then moves to repeat after me, and then it introduces this tiny speaking challenge.
The rule of 3.
Yes, it instructs the user to physically pause the video and say their introduction out loud using a strict rule of 3. 1 time slowly, 1 time normally, 1 time confidently.
This is the neuroscience of habit formation in action.
It's so cool.
Because under extreme stress, you do not rise to the occasion. You default to your level of training. If you haven't physically trained your mouth to form these words while managing your breathing, you will revert right back to panic.
Why that specific sequence, though? Slowly, normally, confidently. What's happening there?
Well, slowly forces the brain to articulate every single syllable. It prioritizes clarity and actively suppresses the urge to rush. It's carving that initial neural pathway.
Okay.
Then, normally, speeds the process up to a conversational tempo, proving to the brain that clarity can exist without sounding robotic.
Ah, so bridging the gap.
Right. And then confidently is the integration phase.
Because on that third attempt, you aren't changing the words or the speed. You're executing the physical markers of that redefined confidence we discussed.
Exactly. Taking the breath, engaging the subtle smile, feeling the grounding of the
You're
phrase.
physicalizing the psychology.
Precisely. You are teaching your autonomic nervous system that these specific words are safe to say. You are immunizing yourself against the panic of the social firing squad.
It completely closes the gap between knowing the theory and surviving the reality. And the framework even demands real-world application at the end. It gives a final call to action, commanding the user. The next time you meet someone new, do not freeze. Take a breath, smile, and say your introduction.
It's a masterfully disguised behavioral intervention.
It really is. It pushes
Yeah.
them right out of the simulation and into the wild. Oh, and it also tasks learners with writing their introduction in the comments for feedback, just to lock it in.
Brilliant.
It is. So let's pull all of this together. We started with a basic text designed to teach absolute beginners how to say hello, and we've unpacked this surprisingly deep, sophisticated behavioral protocol.
We really have.
We've explored how the Name Detail Question API acts as an external hard drive to manage cognitive overload. We've seen how extreme linguistic brevity reduces friction and fosters actual trust. And we've embraced this new definition of confidence, not as hyper-articulate perfection, but as parasympathetic regulation, breathing, smiling, and maintaining resilience when you stumble.
I think the central thesis we've uncovered here is that profound human connection is rarely built on complex performance. It is almost always built on accessible simplicity. Accessible simplicity. I love that. And that's exactly what I want you, the listener, to connect with and reflect on right now. Think about your own default behaviors in high-stakes environments.
Yeah, think about it.
Think about the last time you were at a networking event, or kicking off a crucial client call, or even just trying to impress someone on a first date. When the spotlight swung to you, did you offer a calm, generous invitation to connect? Or did you accidentally launch into a defensive, overcomplicated performance because your amygdala was screaming that you weren't interesting enough?
We all fall into that trap of performing our identities rather than simply sharing them.
We absolutely do. So here is the final lingering question I want to leave you with today. If this rudimentary framework proves that the absolute most confident, effective way to establish trust and presence is through aggressive simplicity, where else in your daily communication are you building unnecessary complexity?
That's a great question. Whether you're drafting a high-stakes email, leading a team meeting, or trying to resolve a conflict with a partner, are you burying the connection under a mountain of big words and frantic energy just to sound perfect?
Probably.
What would happen if you stripped it all away, took a breath, delivered one clear detail, and simply passed the baton? Try it. The results might completely shock you.
They really might.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.